Hello and welcome to the Supernatural track here at Continual. I'm your host, Gail Z Martin, and tonight we are talking about the road ahead. What are some of the possibilities to come back, and if they were to do a reboot, where would we go? So before we dive into speculation and headcanon, let's let our wonderful panelists introduce themselves, starting with Kristin.
Hi, my name is Kristin Jackson. I'm a graphic designer. I work a lot in the film industry. I've been a fan for many, many years of Supernatural, starting with the first episode of the original series, season 1, and I've just been in love with the show ever since.
Okay, Elektra?
I'm Elektra Hammond. I'm a writer and an editor, and I started watching from that very first episode when it aired, and I kept going until that very last episode just made me cry.
And I'm Gail Z Martin, and Morgan Bryce. As Gail, I write epic and urban fantasy. As Morgan, I write urban fantasy, male paranormal romance. But all my modern day worlds are ones where Sam and Dean could walk in and feel right at home. I fell in love with the show halfway through season 11, binge watched 11 seasons in time for the start of season 12, fell down the rabbit hole, and haven't seen the light of day since. So, we were all traumatized, us, the actors, the rest of the fandom, with the finale to Supernatural. Although I personally think it was extremely well done and probably the best way they could have ended it. But we all want more, and Jensen and Jared have talked about wanting to do more. And I think just at the Chicago Con, Jensen made a comment. It was either Chicago or Michigan, one of the last two cons, about, the possibility of coming back for more and wanting to do that. So definitely keeping that flame alive. Where would that road take us? Because we got a pretty solid ending in that last episode with them on the bridge in heaven together, and Sam aging. But there's an amount of time between the barn and when Sam dies that's unaccounted for. And there may be other possibilities. So let's just spitball it and start with Kristin.
Well, let's see. If we were to get a reboot or a continuation, I'd rather not have any other actor play Sam and Dean than Jensen and Jared. So I'll be clear about that right from the start. But if we did get a sequel or a movie or a series, first of all, I would like to have it go back to what it was right in the very beginning. Maybe go with a Monster of the Week format again. And not really swing for the fences with the giant arcs like they did, in the later seasons. So maybe go back to the Monster of the Week types format and have it be the sort of series where, like in the very first episode, they said, watch it with the lights off. So, go back to the really good roots of, storytelling with this kind of that supernatural horror episodic TV. And for the type of story I'd like to see, I would love, how they could play, go forward. We have the gap of time before the barn. We have entire seasons where the boys were out there having adventures and we didn't, it wasn't like 24 where you're watching every single hour of one day. So there were all sorts of adventures that they could have been having that we just never got to see. A second part could be we could have Dean come back as an angel. That's a possibility because, like you say, after Sam and after the barn, Sam went off and did things on his own. Well, I mean, Dean was in heaven. He could maybe come back, help out, be kind of the the heavenly sidekick. He could have adventures of his own. He could be like a Castiel, kind of flying around, maybe helping other people out. We don't know. So there's kind of possibilities where they could work the original cast back in and not necessarily have to factor in a suspension of disbelief with the noticeable difference in ages.
How many times have these guys died?
Yeah.
Never stopped them before.
Yeah. Elektra, what's your headcanon, or what?
All right, well,
What's your first shot?
my absolute first choice would be something where unfortunately we wouldn't see them together all that much, would be that year that Sam came back from hell and didn't tell Dean right away. And he was working with the Campbells. And it would have to be an A plot and a B plot sort of thing. So in the A plot, you'd have Sam doing stuff with the Campbells. And we'd get to see what the heck he did that year with Grandpa Samuel. And in the B plot, you would have Dean sneak off and do a little bit of hunting here and there because you know he didn't stop completely. We know it. The same way that Mary didn't stop completely and just never told John. We found that out later. So Dean was sneaking off and hunting a little bit here and there because he couldn't stop. It's the family business after all. And in some way, the A plot and the B plot would have been related, and there would have been a lot of just misses. And I think those would have been really fun shows to watch.
Okay.
But I wanted to know what happened during that year, and I would have liked to get to know the cousins and Grandpa Samuel a little bit more.
You could even do that as flashbacks with Sam and Dean working together at an older stage, and having something come up that made it important to re-examine what happened during that year because Sam might not completely remember. That pulls both of them in. So we get Sam and Dean together, but we get flashbacks with the Campbells, and the impact of those things that might have thought were wrapped up at the time, or might not have seemed important and come back to bite you on the butt.
So sometimes we get a flashback to that, and sometimes we get a flashback to something Dean did.
Mm-hmm.
That could be fun.
That could be fun. Well, I mean, yes, first of all, it's got to be Jensen and Jared. Fortunately for us, neither of those men age. I think if we do it in a reasonable time period, the suspension of disbelief isn't going to be all that hard, because they're in that period where people don't start looking real different real quickly. Unfortunately, I think Misha's aged a little harder than Jensen and Jared. But Jensen and Jared, especially when you look at how different Jensen looks just shaving his beard for Voight Rising, it's like, wow. So I think they could pull that off. I've always been hung up on what happened in between episode 19 and 20 in the final season. So before the barn, but after the victory over Chuck. There's an indeterminate amount of time that isn't accounted for there. So were they still hunting? Did Dean set up a school for hunters? Did Sam dive fully into the men of letters? Did they go around and look for other chapter houses? There's so many things that you could do, not only Monster of the Week hunts, but also kind of how are they not exactly preparing for retirement, but transitioning to a reality where Jack is God, and maybe they've got to clean up the bad stuff that's left, but they don't have a Chuck that's actively throwing new stuff at them. I think that could certainly be good for a season or two at least. And that would incorporate all of the things you've mentioned.
Do you think that the writers, even in that abbreviated season, do you think the writers intentionally gave us that gap so that we could go back? Like we're going to put just a little bit of a gap in there so that we could revisit this if, God willing, we get another shot at the series. So maybe they did that intentionally.
It sure looked intentional. There's definitely a sense of time passing
Mm-hmm.
and them getting into a routine of we're still hunting, but there's not as much stuff for us to do by far.
Yeah.
And there was time for them to explore all sorts of other possibilities and looking at moving on with their lives.
Mm-hmm. Well, and there's the cleanup of what was left that Chuck threw out there, but without Chuck throwing more stuff out there, um, they should be winning the war of attrition finally. And Rowena's in hell, running hell. They have a frenemy there who is going to keep a pretty good bargain. Jack's running heaven.
Well, and the first well, those are going to end up being like 10 episode seasons.
Mm-hmm. Which is
And
pretty much what they're doing.
there's a two-parter in there where they go to England and they clean up that damn school for the British men of the letters
Mm-hmm.
and they burn it to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was just a place of evil for
Yeah.
sure.
Well, and the whole idea that there were other men of letters bunkers in major US cities, maybe world cities, that alone could be worth a couple of episodes of, if not shutting them down, at least
Getting
finding
the
them,
lure.
huh?
Getting the lure.
Getting the lore, safeguarding what's there, maybe finding, some ghosts and some haunted stuff while they're there, maybe a
Hiring
tentacle
staff
monster.
to scan it in and
Mhm.
digitize it for the for the future.
Yeah.
I'd love to see. I mean, that really, especially considering how some TV series now, maybe on Netflix or Amazon, where they have larger pockets, they've been doing some series where it's international based. So like Day of the Jackal, they had the character is going all over Europe, and that would be fun. That would be entertaining to see Sam
Mhm.
and Dean finding all those old, locked away men of letters bunkers in other countries and exploring some of the mythology in those countries, the vampires, the werewolves, the crypts under Paris. You've got Greek mythology. You've got a lot of opportunity to explore other cultures by, and the MacGuffin is they're finding these other shuttered men of letter bunkers that have been kind of lost and bricked over.
Mhm.
And so you've got the treasure hunt kind of quality going on. You've got the international, sights and sounds, which kind of dress things up to, just because it's production value. And then you've got all this rich storytelling that could be done. The Hansel and Gretel's and
Mhm.
whatever it is, the Russian types of thing. I mean, yes, we already kind of explored some of those just here in the States, but you go back to the source material,
Mhm.
there is so much more that could be explored and do it from within these other countries.
Mhm.
I'd watch the heck out of that.
I love the idea of having an overarching piece of it being to collect all the lore they can and digitize it for the future of mankind.
Mhm.
Because
Mhm.
there's stuff in one place that you don't have in another because back, there was a time when you were handwriting it and some of those books don't exist in more than one copy. And you
Mhm.
can't just order another off Amazon.
Right.
And
Well,
also, to collect some of those imbued items and magical items that might fall into, into inappropriate hands.
Yeah. Some of them you
who was
obviously
doing that
can't
in
copy.
the early season? Was that what was her name? Belle? No, the gal who was Sam or Dean's kind of. They went back and forth, and she was collecting the various items to sell and profit off of.
Oh, Bella.
Bella, that's it. I was like Belle. I was like halfway there, so close. But yeah, because I'm sure there'd be other people around who might accidentally stumble on an abandoned men of letters bunker and be like, "Hey, what's this hand of glory? I mean, that's pretty cool. I'll put that on my shelf, and we'll light all the fingers for my party." And yeah, you could see where Sam and Dean would have their hands full just trying to make sure that all that stuff gets locked down.
Mm-hmm. Elektra?
That's just, I'm overcome with the idea that that would be great. I just saw an article celebrating, we just hit an anniversary of the end of it, the end episode, and they were talking about how this is never going to happen again. We're never going to get a 15-year TV series that had 20 some odd episodes per season. The days of that kind of episodic TV are done. And especially given that it was a fantasy series, that the expense is just too much. And the people who wrote it didn't understand the difference between urban fantasy and high fantasy. And the idea that there wasn't that many fantastic elements to it, that it was guys in flannel shirts in
Yeah.
a classic car. There wasn't all that much going on. That wasn't just like a regular, police show, say,
Right. Right.
in terms of special effects. But
Well,
just
oh,
pick a period, pick a time between two seasons, and just,
mm-hmm.
even if it's Sam sitting down with his kid talking about what happened with his brother in the family business, and going back and discussing those adventures they had so that we can find out about them.
And it becomes a flashback where we see what he's talking about, with him and Uncle Dean. Yeah.
Right. That year after the Leviathans, once Dean had disappeared, or the year before the Leviathans, and he talks about it and you see them. Or, we get to find out what it was that happened when Dean was looking for Sam after he disappeared, what he went through trying to get Sam back from hell before he decided that he was going to just give it up and go be happy with Lisa.
Well, and we could also get a chance to fix the abomination of the Amelia storyline.
God, yes, fix that, please.
Where we find out, if I ever get to ask another question at a supernatural con, and I've probably run out of luck because I think I've gotten to ask 3 and I was the last question one, so I've probably shot my wad. But it's going to be whether or not the Amelia storyline was originally intended to be a hallucination. Because the first 3 episodes are very soft focus and warm colors. It looks very much like a dream sequence. And then about episode 4, it gets sharp focused and regular. And I think it was
It's a
originally,
gin.
I think it was originally, so I think that Sam had a psychotic break. And that's why he didn't look for Dean and imagined the whole Amelia thing. Now, they didn't end up going that direction, but I still think that that might have been where they were originally heading.
Oh, let them retcon it. He got captured by a gin.
That's right.
And some other hunter, maybe Martin came by and helped him out of it, and they just
Mhm.
don't talk about it because
Yeah,
he was so upset that he didn't go looking for Dean.
yeah. Well, and one of the other things you were talking about the 20-year anniversary and how we might never see this kind of show for the length. One of the things that you've really got to credit for the show remaining so vital at 20 is Jared and Jensen put a lot of effort into maintaining that. It doesn't happen by accident, and it's not just because of creation entertainment. They they boost the show. They are all in on those cons. They are all in on talking about the show. They do a lot on their own and relating to the fandom in a way that I've never seen any other fandom work that way. So I do believe that they would like to bring it back in some way because they even weave in Easter eggs in their new projects. Um, you know what? We just saw um, Soldier Boy and one of the other ones from it looking into the trunk, that trunk scene. We've got work to do, and it's like, okay, we
Yeah.
you know.
Tracker is full of Easter eggs. It was surprising. I was like, are they really getting away
Walk,
with this?
Walker and
And
Kemp have,
nobody in the network is like, hey, you guys, just may lay it off. It's not quite so thick.
What harm is there in it?
I
yeah.
know. I personally
Having
love
the
it. I think it's
Impalas
great.
show up there but it made all the fans happy and that gets
Oh
them to
yes.
watch.
I was
Mhm.
delighted. I was
Yeah.
absolutely delighted. I was beside myself.
It, it,
Um,
it makes it fun for us,
Yeah.
and that draws in the supernatural fans to watch it
Hmm.
because,
yeah.
it might not be everybody's cup of tea. He got people to watch Big Sky who might not have.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, now one thing that we haven't mentioned is that, I mean, in addition to the Campbells, there was still a wealth of things that could be explored on the Hunter side of things.
Hmm.
That there was an entire connected and interconnected, loosely connected, bunch of hunters in the States that were spread out all over the place. We had encounters with various of, people over the seasons. But what happened? What were they doing when all the crap was going down with Chuck? I mean, they must have been experiencing similar levels of just, global ending apocalypse crisis. And especially, when we did have the apocalypse and various, demons, and then the seals were broken and everything. So what were they doing when all this was going
You
down?
mean
How did
besides
they
being
rebuild
pissed?
everything? We need to find out what they were up to
Hmm.
and how Sam and Dean might have gotten back in touch. Did they try to rebuild connections? Did they try to reform and restructure maybe a cross between the Hunter way of doing things and integrate some more of the procedural scientific approach that the men of letters had? I mean, there's stories to be told there, I
Hmm.
think.
Electra?
Well, aside from everybody being pissed at Dean and Sam for causing the apocalypse, uh,
Many times.
there's a lot
Several
of
times.
really, really interesting stuff going on there. I'd love to see some more stories coming out of the bar, the Roadhouse,
Hmm.
before it got destroyed. I mean, just
Ash.
that would have been so much fun. Yes, way more Ash. He was so much fun.
Well, what about, we know that Elliot Ness was a hunter.
Oh
And
God,
I abs and I
why
abs
didn't they do that spin-off?
and I absolutely loved Ezra, the woman who was his partner, the older woman.
The one who
Um,
was his Bobby.
yeah. So, what if they revisit the Elliot Ness files? And maybe some of the things that Ness thought were taken care of weren't quite so taken care of, and they have to go back in and fix things.
If
That would be so much fun.
But if they're gonna start doing things like 10 episode seasons, why
Hmm.
can't we get the Elliot Ness spin-off and just get, 10 episodes set back then? And why can't Sam and Dean pop in for part of it?
Hmm.
Like a prequel, do a prequel for it.
Hmm.
Yeah, I
I
could see
mean,
that.
they can be sucked back into time. I mean, there's got to be an amulet or something
Hmm.
that's got time travel in one of the chapter houses. And,
Hmm.
maybe in Chicago, they'll find a chapter house with something that dire bad things are going to happen to Elliot Ness or Ezra and well, let's see if we can go back and help them.
Mm-hmm.
And they find a bauble and they go back, and that'll be like the a two-parter introducing us to 10 episodes of Elliot Ness
Mm-hmm.
and the Untouchables. It'll be great fun and great clothes and cars and classic stuff.
Yes, and hats.
Oh, they look good in
He
hats.
did look good in hats. Kristin?
Yeah, I love personally, I just saw the Downton Abbey movie. So
Mm-hmm.
I love period pieces. I'd be all for that. And Elliot Ness kind of prequel series where we get to explore some of the stories that he did with, either in with Sam and Dean either popping in personally or they're going, they're looking through the files and then the scene goes to the Elliot Ness side of things. So they'd essentially be like the narrators for the show as they're going through the files. So
Like the
that could be a
Winchesters.
way where they could continue on their additional, the shows they're involved with now. And they, just are essentially, they could shoot it in a single day. They're reading, or Jensen and Jared,
Mm-hmm.
the actors are reading in a room, going through the files and saying, hey, what about this file? And they start reading it, and then you kind of drop into the Elliot Ness
Mm-hmm.
side of things. So that would kind of allow them the flexibility to have their other series that they're working on, not necessarily commit to being on screen in every scene like they had to do with the show, as it originally was,
And
and
you could
expand the lore at the same time.
and you
That would
could
be really
you
cool.
could expand their presence if they wanted to, and it was possible, where it starts with kind of that bookending thing, but maybe there is a loose end that Elliot Ness didn't tie up,
Yes.
or
Yep.
not surprising, something comes back from the dead. Just
Yep.
somebody has Elliot
As
Ness
they
thought it was
do.
dead and buried, and it isn't. And so now they have the second part of the episode where they have to go kill it all over again or whatever. So you could have a nice mix of that, that again might not be as heavy a commitment for them. We still get seeing Sam and Dean together. Yeah, that could be cool. Electra?
I don't know. I mean, I'd love to see it. I'm still thinking really hard about one of the other series, and are we going to find out what happens?
Countdown?
Yes.
I hated the way they ended that season finale.
Yeah, the heads
Yeah,
will roll if we do not find out what happens.
yeah, I agree. Um,
I love these guys, but
yeah.
yeah, where are we going to go next? Uh, well, there's just so much good stuff. It just
Hmm.
hurts that they picked like the worst possible thing to try to do. That's that weird thing in Chicago that they tried to do as a spin-off.
Oh, Bloodlines.
Yeah, there was so much good stuff in there. So much. And that was what they picked.
Hmm.
I'd like to see them do some more stuff. I know you didn't like um the one with the women, but I would like to see something with
That way with
Jody and Donna
hmm.
all the
Yeah.
way, or bring them back in some way, shape, or form. I was just rewatching one of the ones with Sheriff Donna, and
Hmm.
I'd forgotten how much I love her.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
And Jody is always awesome.
hmm.
I think their attempt to try to tell things from a monster perspective might have been influenced by all the other shows that were going on, of similar genre where you're
Like
getting the
Vampire
monster side of
Diaries.
things. So they probably thought it would fly, but what really they misinterpreted the fact that supernatural fans were watching for the monsters. We aren't. We're watching for the hunters, for Sam and Dean,
Hmm.
and the angels and that side of things. We're and Crowley, and we're not. a Crowley TV series would be fun. And at least there'd be a relatability because we love the character. But watching something that's just, okay, this is, we're watching supernatural demon version where it's just all about the demons. No, I don't think that would fly. We need to
No.
keep the
If
focus
they'd done
on the
something,
character driven side of things.
if they'd done something about the Roadhouse, or if they'd done a young John Winchester, the way they tried to, that would have been wonderful. If they'd done that concurrent with the boys, we would have been screaming for more,
Mm-hmm.
screaming for it. And
Yeah.
if God, if Dad hadn't been so damn busy doing 3 other TV series, and he could have been narrating it because the boys were still shooting this one,
Mm-hmm.
it would have been a huge hit
Mm-hmm.
if they had settled it in as in the same universe, and we'd gotten to see the secret love story of John and Mary.
What about something where, drop in a few episodes once, because we know that Ash was meddling in the essentially the computer's program of heaven, and he was monkeying around. What was he up to? I'd
Mm-hmm.
like to at least an episode or two just to show how he was using his hacker skills to either help or hinder, or what the heck was Ash up to?
Oh, come on.
In
I
addition
could watch
to drilling holes through people's little private heavens.
I could watch 10 episodes of all of our friends in
Mhm.
heaven as Ash goes to visit all of them. Home base the Roadhouse, and he stops by and brings everybody back for a party.
Well, another thing is Henry Winchester got sucked forward into the future. And then what? What did he do? He couldn't go back. Sam and Dean couldn't take him back without changing history. But what about those years that Henry lived? He knew to be a hunter. So was he hunting? Who was he hunting with? Was he hunting with an earlier version of the Campbells? Was he hunting with Samuel's father? Um, you know, there there's another, Sam and Dean could be going through the archives and documenting things, and again, another bookended thing like that. But Henry he didn't just stay static. He did something for the rest of his life. And I would think that it was hunting. Well, folks, we have run through our time with a lot of speculation. I'd love to see all of these, and this is why we have fan fiction.
Just
But
more.
But I truly hope that Jensen and Jared are right, and we do get more in some version. So we're just going to have to trust them and cross our fingers and hope
Or
that
watch
Jared
their other TV shows.
That's right. That's right. All right. Well, before we wrap up, let's let everybody know where people can find you online. And if you have any new, recent, or upcoming projects, tell us about them. Kristin?
I guess you can find me online. I'm not on social media as much anymore, but if you're interested, I'm a Blue Sky is at AnnieCat68. I was just at Dragon Con, had an absolute blast there. I'm hoping that we will be part of or I will be part of a upcoming photo or upcoming filming of a indie horror movie that's going to be shooting. I'm a producer's assistant, so that'd be cool. So that's about it for me.
Somehow in those 90,000 people, I didn't run into you. Shocker.
Yeah, exactly.
Elektra?
I'm Elektra Hammond. Find me at untilmidnight.com. I do most of my socials on Mastodon or Blue Sky, where you can find me at Elektra or at Until Midnight, depending on where. All the links are on at untilmidnight.com, and on Mastodon using hashtag WriteFan. Monday nights at 7, we answer a set of random questions posed by one of our moderators, and everyone is welcome to join in the fun and answer, because isn't it fun to chat with friendly random people about a topic of, well, you never know what it'll be.
Cool.
Just to get the blood flowing and the thoughts going, because, well, why not?
Why not, indeed? I'm pretty easy to find at gailzmartin.com, morganbryce.com. If you spell those right, you'll find me on all the major social medias. I've got a couple of new books out and a couple of new books coming. So follow me on social media. I'm on Facebook and all the rest of them. I talk about all kinds of good stuff like that. And there are a lot of cute animal pictures as well. So thank you and in my Supernatural TFWNC group, lots of supernatural stuff. So anyhow, thank you guys so much for another fantastic panel. Thanks to all of you for watching and listening. There will be more supernatural coming up on Continual, so we'll see you online.